Tonight on Bridge City News, Prime Minister Trudeau has announced new spending for online mental health services and also for creating a vaccine for COVID-19. While COVID-19 has caused a lot of unemployment, it has created job opportunities for security guards. And parts of India have been hit hard by the pandemic, with some families dealing with serious food shortages. We will show you how one pastor is making a difference.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Paul Arthur.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced today that the government is spending $240 million to improve access to online services like mental health support and virtual access to doctors for primary care. He also announced a $175 million investment in a Vancouver biological company to create a vaccine for COVID-19.
And today we're taking another step forward. Our government is investing over $240 million to bring healthcare online. We're expanding existing online tools, creating new virtual platforms for mental health and for primary care. Let me start with a new platform for mental health. Whether you're looking for strategies to manage stress or support from a professional, this will be a resource for you. If we can provide mental health support online, there's no reason we can't leverage technology in other areas of healthcare too. This $240 million investment will also include funding for virtual care for times when you don't need to see a doctor in person. Just take video conferencing. By helping doctors run appointments online, you can stay safe at home while getting care, and our hospitals can stay focused on those who need it most. Today, I can announce that we're investing over $175 million to support the Canadian company AbCellera for their very promising COVID-19 research. They've identified antibodies that could be used in drugs to treat this virus. This new funding will help them continue their vital work and will support human trials beginning as early as July.
An Ottawa company is voluntarily recalling its rapid COVID-19 test following concerns from Health Canada. Spartan Bioscience says there were no questions about the accuracy and analytical performance, but the agency was concerned about the efficacy of the proprietary swab for the testing product. Health Canada says the product is restricted to research use only until adequate evidence of clinical performance can be provided. The federal government announced it had approved the handheld DNA analyzer on April 13th. As of yesterday, Alberta Health Services says there were 97 new cases of coronavirus, which is one of the lowest numbers reported. This brings the provincial total to 5,670. Of these cases, there were only 88 people hospitalized, including 19 who are in ICU. There were also 2 new deaths reported, bringing the province's death toll to 94. 2 Calgary women in their 90s at continuing care facilities passed away. There were no new cases reported for Lethbridge. Our total remains at 17, of which 10 have already recovered. People in several provinces across the country will enjoy more freedoms tomorrow because of loosened COVID-19 restrictions. Manitoba is allowing many non-essential businesses to reopen, including campgrounds. Alberta and Saskatchewan have told dentists, optometrists, physiotherapists, and other medical professionals they can start operating again tomorrow. Quebec is letting retail stores outside the Montreal area reopen, while Ontario will allow some largely outdoor-based businesses to open with certain restrictions in place. The COVID-19 pandemic means security guards are now in high demand, but they're doing jobs they wouldn't normally do, like checking temperatures and controlling grocery store lineups. A union in Ontario says it's been a struggle to get enough guards to fill the demand. Jeff Kettelars with UFCW Local 333 says that's because license testing can't be done while government offices are closed. He says there are 1,500 jobs immediately available, many of them well-paying. And south of the border, as many states begin to reopen, senior economic advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump, Kevin HASSETT, says that the consequences of a gradual opening up of the country after coronavirus lockdown measures will determine whether a phase 4 reopening will be possible.
Well, I think that what we're doing is we're waiting to see what the economic impact of the gradual opening up is, assessing, what that does to the demand for, say, PPP loans. These small business loans have been keeping the firms afloat. And then, if the economy is strong enough that those funds don't necessarily need to be re-upped, then we could move on perhaps to a phase 4 deal that is more about growth and, taking off and recovering rather than just building a bridge to recovery. It's a very, very difficult time to estimate unemployment because the numbers are changing so rapidly. But I would guess that you'd be looking at a number like 16 to 19%. And I think it's important to speak frankly. The president believes it's very important to speak frankly about the numbers, to tell the truth to the American people, and to help them get ready for these bad numbers, which we believe are temporary because of the shutdown.
There are often silver linings in the clouds. Now, here is a touching story describing how New York City neighborhoods are coming together to help families in the city and across the country grieve those lost during the coronavirus pandemic.
Like lots of New Yorkers, Winifred Pardo died alone in quarantine of the new coronavirus.
New York City is one big neighborhood right now, and so many people are dying. The rest of us want to do something.
Because flower stores and embroidery shops are considered non-essential, Brooklyn funeral director Amy Cunningham turned to her neighborhood Google group.
Ordinarily, I would take it to a machine embroiderer to have the word mom embroidered on it, but because everybody's closed, I put the word out in my neighborhood that I needed an embroiderer, and a beautiful woman stepped forward.
That woman was Rebecca Bankiot.
So I was moved that they're not able to be in attendance for the funeral, so I hope that this is some small way to contribute and know that other people are thinking about them.
She gave the embroidery to Cunningham, whom she had never met.
I can't believe it worked out.
Cunningham placed it carefully on Winifred Pardo's casket. Her daughter Beth says it helped turn a lonely time into a feeling of community.
To find connection is helping me get through it. And I think it has turned what felt very stark and harsh and lonely to this beautiful thing. This is like a poetic, beautiful thing.
The family was not able to attend the funeral in New York because of the pandemic.
We were advised that you could have one person at the burial only from the family, and we didn't want to have any one of us separated from other family.
The service and burial were live streamed. Pardo and her daughter Zoe spoke lovingly of their mother and grandmother and played musical tributes at the funeral from 100 miles away in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I think she would have loved it. I mean, this was like probably her dream come true, The only difference is that she wasn't here, and I think that would be the only difference that she would want.
Coming together virtually in a time of death.
In northern India, there are reports of many families being on the verge of starvation during the coronavirus lockdown. One pastor and his team are doing all they can to share the limited resources they have to ensure no one goes without food. Peter Wooding with the Global News Alliance has the story.
A pastor in northern India is overcoming huge obstacles to alleviate the suffering of countless lives in his community. With very few resources, Pastor Bashir and his team are providing vital food supplies to some of the most deprived communities, as well as running regular medical clinics. He explains more about the calling God gave himself and his wife to such a compassionate ministry.
During this lockdown period, there's no work, there's no income. Therefore, the believers are going through a hard time. They do not have enough food at their home, so they are having difficulties to provide food to their children and even for themselves. Therefore, as a ministers of the gospel of Lord Jesus Christ, I cannot sit at home quietly when the believers and the relatives and their neighbors are going through lots of hard time and when there is no enough food for themselves.
He says they've also seen a remarkable response to their church ministry, particularly impacting people from both Muslim and Hindu backgrounds, and they have significant plans to expand this outreach.
Believers from Muslim background comes on Friday and worship together and pray for each other. And then we are also having ministry to the Hindus, and we are having a Sunday worship services where the believers from Hindu backgrounds and their relatives and neighbors comes and we worship together, pray for each other. Many patients given their hearts to Jesus. Now, We like to establish more churches among the Muslim community, among the Hindu communities, and we need to recruit more leaders, more workers.
Meanwhile, this rural pastor is gathering all the supplies he can find to feed the many families that have run out of food because of the pandemic lockdown.
Recapping one of our top news stories, Prime Minister Trudeau has announced $240 million in new spending for online mental health services and also $175 million toward creating a vaccine for COVID-19. And a look at weekend weather. It was a bit of a blustery one today, and we have more wind on the way. A few clouds tonight with a low of 4. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and cloud and a west wind gusting from 50 to 70 and a high of 14. How should Christians approach the coronavirus pandemic? Some churches in the U.S. have been ignoring government orders not to hold services with large gatherings. Dr. Michael Brown, author of When the World Stops, joins us next for an interesting discussion on this.